It's like, it looks kind of weird, right? So, see, yeah.
Let us not test my technical skills here.
It's the,
She's probably on.
It's serious? Where's the gentleman that was helping us with the screen?
He's probably he sits back here.
Yeah.
All right, this is weird. Oh no.
I had several hundred people there. The guy whose foundation I ran was trying to like broadcast an event. And it just had like the wrong thing highlighted, or so I'm running out of the like I was introduced. I was all excited to show like we had like 7 programs, now we have 200 programs, and I remember panicking and
Did it have to work?
yeah, by the time I came back in, my friend
Seriously?
like, walked over and he pushed the button. Worked.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. You're trying on stuff and they hit one button and yeah.
Yeah, that would be the polls as well.
All right, so I'm sharing. I forgot that.
How do you do it? I want to do it.
There we go.
That's, we sort of the same people.
Alter ego joining us today.
Yes, it is. I would start.
Yes, that's the thing. Mostly.
Job training. So we can't see everybody on Zoom. So we have a camera, but I guess we could turn that camera on and turn it around, but not everyone is at a place where they can actually get on camera, so that's perfect for everyone. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Do we all have the agenda? All right, cool. And my Zoom people, members, can you all hear us?
Yes, I can, sir. Good morning,
All
everyone.
right, good.
Good morning,
So
everyone.
can you identify yourself as part of our intros this morning? Who's online and we'll let you know who's here in person.
Certainly. Randall Elliott Toby, AKA Rand. Honor and a pleasure representing the Father Center of New Jersey.
Right. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Patrice Levancher, Oak Environmental. I'm also a member of the Trenton Microloan Collaborative. And I have a sexy, deep voice today because I'm sick.
Well, thank you. Patrice is under the weather right now, so she's recovering. So we wish you speedy recovery there. And what else do we have on line right now? I don't know if Polash joined us or not. I think
No.
that's just me. Okay.
Yep.
So we'll keep on going. Around the table, I'll start out. My name is Shay Olaf with JP Morgan Chase, and I have a pleasure of working with all of you guys for this last few months. So sorry we're starting late. The weather was crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we all made it safe. So thank you so much. Then I'll go to my right and we'll have Josh introduce himself as well.
Yeah, Josh Morgan, I'm the new Chief Development Officer at Boys and Girls Clubs of Mercer County.
Mary Euler, Employment Support Specialist at TAS.
Jeanette Risk at the Workforce Partnership Executive Director.
Sean Ford, the Workforce Development Coordinator at the Trinity Association.
Kim Shivers, Director of Philanthropy Community Engagement for 10 Acre Foundation.
And Courtney.
Just Courtney, yes.
Yes, I go by one.
What?
You're your own brand.
Exactly.
So, with our agenda this morning, we just wanted to kind of get back together in terms of our members planning meetings. We had a really, I don't know what you guys all think, but just to get some thoughts around our our community roundtable with Anthony Varelli, Assemblyman Varelli, on the 19th of 19th of April. That was last month. That's already, it's crazy. It was really great. Thanks to Courtney letting us use the Princeton Art Museum offices for this meeting. I think we had probably close to 25 people in the room, maybe more than that, from different organizations. And we've heard so many great feedback since that meeting. So many people reaching out, people that were not able to make it, people that talking to other people. But I thought that the general tenure of what we discussed there was really good, and it definitely got a lot of eyes and attention on what we're doing here. But I wanted to open up, just kind of get some of you guys' Kim.
Yes.
Kim, sorry, I didn't Kim, I know you were not part of the meeting, but it'd be kind of good to kind of hear a little bit of what happened at the meeting a little bit and some impressions around the table around this round table that we had, which was first of its kind for us. So yeah, I'll open it up. Yeah.
Do you want to work that way?
Yeah, walk around.
So I think that the most profound thing for me in the meeting was, and it's something I brought up a bunch of times, that Assemblyman Varelli's office, County Executive Benson's office, good friends, know each other, worked together previously, are not connected on a similar initiative, which to me doesn't make any sense. And I think the other most profound thing was that they contracted it to a group that isn't really based here. And they're talking about, hey, we can do these things, we're able to do these things. And I pointed out, you have people that are doing those things here. And if you have any type of, if you have built into the funding that you received contractor money, then please list these groups as the contractors. They're the boots on the ground. It makes sense to use them. So I don't know if anything's come from that.
I don't know if they heard it.
Yeah, so I don't mind being the person that says it again. There's nothing to lose for me. I'm sticking my nose where it doesn't belong, I feel like sometimes.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah, but it felt like it needed to be said, and I know it's not easy for any of the, like I said, boots on the ground that are doing the work, that are saying we're making these efforts, to have someone to say, oh, we can find a way to make that happen. It's not necessary. I mean, I think one of the things was actually going into the jails prior to, and obviously that's part of what you're doing. That's what the Halsey Foundation does. So let's streamline things. And I think that it makes sense to sort of have a recap of here's what each different group that's at the table does specifically. And then, the parameters of the funding that was put out. And then how you can each fill those roles, like I said, in a contractor way, but, they know they need to get certain things and check certain boxes, and this is what you're doing already. So how can we get them to steer that funding your way, if it's there? So again, I would be the person to call it out again, if that made sense. But I think it's an important thing to make sure that they don't start to try to figure out how they're, like, in the last month, have they gone and started to figure out how they're going to make these programs work? How they are gonna implement their 90-day plan, or have they realized they need to add some of these groups to what will make it a more successful, initiative? So I think it's really timely that we have to kind of chase. Was it Court? No, what was Chelsea? Yeah. So she seemed receptive to me. I mean, because I walked out with her and I said, I didn't want to sound like, trying to derail what she was saying. I was saying, that's awesome that you want to do that. And let's help you streamline it. That's what's being done here.
To give a bit of context for Kim. So Dan Benson, when he came in as county executive, the first official action that he took was to award some ARP funding to reentry. I want to say it was $1 million, so it wasn't a ton, and it was for a 2 to 3 year program. Half of it went to expungement, and then two organizations from outside of Mercer County. One is a law firm, does expungement, and then Wolf Mentoring out of Neptune, New Jersey, to do workforce development. And then when we asked them, why did you bring people in from outside? Their response is, no one answered when we put the RFP out. None of us ever saw the RFP, and it was actually the ED of task, Joyce Campbell, who said, where was it? Where was it posted?
Right.
And so it's just.
Did they have an answer for that?
It was all very non-transparent. I don't know how else to say. It came out kind of out of nowhere, and it was for people who were doing re-entry, and we're still trying to establish ourselves in the county. It's like, why would you do this? Why would you bring in someone from outside? And the crazy, they don't even do re-entry. They focus, and I need to remember more, is like, they do a lot of great work, but it's not, their background is not re-entry. So they're coming in here and they're trying to figure out, and it's a 2-year program, so they're going to try and figure out how to connect and do the work. And they've got connect. So because it's county funded, they're now in Keene University, in Keene Camp, Kearney Camp. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right down across the street from us, doing essentially what we do. And so it's very hard not to be bitter about.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that each group would help her, it would be a service to her, and it would streamline her efforts if she leveraged your expertise in what you're doing. So I think that if we reconnected, it might actually relieve a burden that she's feeling on how do I get all this done.
And if they were put in a very awkward situation, right? They're supposed to do exactly what is already being done. Thankfully, so I had a meeting since that meeting. I've met with Chelsea.
Okay, good.
And they are adjusting it a bit, and they're now, instead of doing pure workforce development, they're focusing on what she calls generational wealth building. So the focus is on, so they have a variety of courses, and it's very different structure from ours. So it's a 8-week course that meets twice a week in the evenings for 2 hours. So in theory, people could take our course and their course at the same time. And theirs is all focused on finance and building your wealth, and or rebuilding in some cases. So they have entrepreneurship training, they have, but then it's.
Is that a part before the horse type of scenario? Like don't they need to get through what your services are before they can start considering how they can, So I'll be that guy. If you want me to call that out, I don't mind doing it.
So
I'll be polite about
I think I wouldn't use the word to be fair, but I think to have maybe broader view of what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that the dysfunction that we see here in Mercer County, it's not just Dan Benson's office. It's across the board from, and I'll call it out because I'm also an outsider in a way, from, even within the nonprofit ranks, people jockeying for grants. And I understand the ecosystem there to kind of, we want to kind of like hold on to what you have. And maybe probably there's probably more collaborations amongst nonprofits and the other type of agencies we have in the county, but with the governments, things are caught up in bureaucracy, and that's not unique to Mercer County, but that's what you see across the board. But here's what the coalition comes into play. We're holding them to account and task around this, and we make it our business to know what's going on in the county around the entry. So when we have those round tables, there's a lot of other meetings that are happening behind the scenes to bring those parties into understanding. Okay, so I heard you say something in the meeting, Chelsea. I heard you say something in the meeting, Valicia, who was doing the expungement. Explain a little bit more to us. We want to understand what's going on around it and to try to begin to help them understand how they can integrate within the ecosystem that is here, because that wasn't happening before. And it's not really their fault. It's the people that brought them into the county to do that kind of work. And it's our job to then say back to them whether it's the Dan Benson's office, Morelli's office, whether it's Trenton, what's going on in Trenton and some of the other the townships around the county, to say we need to start working together. Because then that is the message. And I think that is where the coalition is important, to say we're here, we want to hold you accountable so that we can be more efficient in serving these people. And I think that's the message that we have to keep on harping on. I told Jeanette that I think we were thinking about, okay, we need to get back in front of Borelli. Okay, it's good, Borelli, you came a month ago, but it's accountability to the process. So we reached out to his office through Jacqueline Fay, who is this chief of staff, said, well, you made a promise that you wanted to meet with us. Here are the things, how do we activate the things we talked about at the meeting? So we're asking for Jacqueline Fay to meet with us again so we can get on Borelli's calendar around some of those initiatives. And then I think we're also doing the same thing with Dan Benson's office to try to get him into our meeting as well. But for the next meeting, not the 7th, but probably the one after, probably later in the summer. But the reason why we're doing this is like, these are systemic issues. It's not just isolated. So to correct that, you have to create structure. An organization like this is saying, we want to do things a different way. But you have to show that path and you have to show the way to do that. And so I think a lot of the pain points we're discussing here, we've all seen it. It's the dysfunction that we see. Things are so siloed. Do you know, for instance, that we found out there was another expungement clinic being done by NAACP and nobody knows about it? But that's unique to like what we see in the county.
And the city.
And the city, there's like, and we found out about it as well. And those are the things that we see, because right now people are just used to doing things, mentioned it last time, in silos. So to try to begin to kind of coordinate that effort, to have a coalition when you say, funnel what you're doing through our coalition, because we're going to get you more eyes. We can be more effective in that. That's the message we have to kind of pass across. And that's not going to be done overnight. But each step is important. We've deputized Josh to help us be that voice, but those are the important things we have to begin to call out, because to your point with the Chelsea thing, I was curious too, because they were talking about financial literacy, which is kind of my own area as well from Chase. And I'm like, I'm curious, what exactly do you do? And how do you pull it off? But that's important. Just being fair, just thinking about where we are and what we're trying to accomplish and why this is important.
And both are relatively new.
Dan is new as well. Yeah, Mary. Yeah.
Face it,
Yeah.
Mercer County is not that big.
No, it's not.
It's not that big.
It's not.
And we've got organizations, like you said, working on their own in silos. And, one of the organizations that's missing is the New Jersey Association on Correction. Where are they? But in this age of communication, there's a severe lack of communication. People doing things that duplicating efforts and not cooperate. If we could just get a list of everybody that's doing things and create like an email list so that when you do something, we all know about it.
Mhm.
And we might have to, you know, we're stepping it up to Dan Benson and Borelli. I mean, they should be able to use their influence to pull everybody together. It's going to be hard for us to do it. I mean, we're, you know, one of many. But if we can somehow get everybody at least communicating so that we don't miss out on job fairs and expungement clinics. But you know, there were organizations missing. It's like, you guys need to at least be on the mailing list so we can communicate.
Now, our mailing list is growing.
Yeah.
And we make it our, so I'll say this, we make it our business to know, I told Courtney this. We make it our business to know what's going on, have ears everywhere. No, because what you're saying, it's a culture issue. The culture right now, people don't collaborate.
Mhm.
And so even if you enforce a deputized Borelli's office, there's still people that are gonna be reluctant because relationship currency matters. So if you have people coming in, it's like, well, I don't know if I really want to be part of this. No, we want to talk to people that know you and why you need to be part of this.
Mhm.
Now, the coalition is probably not for everybody. I get it. But I think there is a place where at least
be in communication.
Communication.
You
Don't
may not come to the table, but at least be on the list so that when you
can know what's going on.
So we know, so we're not holding job fairs on the same day.
Hey, yeah. Yeah,
You know,
it's a piece of point. You know, case in point, Salvation and Justice. After the meeting, they've reached out to our, Gmail account and said, hey, we have this conference we're doing for Second Chance. It's not in the county, it's in Montclair.
Mhm.
But I think now they know that, okay, they have the mind in the sense that we need to let this be known. And that's what we want to begin to create in the culture. Janet Porter reached out to me after as well, saying, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. We did promote her event on the post. I don't know if you guys saw the post email that we wrote, the recap email. And she was like, oh, thank you so much for this. Obviously, she didn't reach out to us to let us know that she was doing that, but we did do it. But the point is, like, we're trying to let her know that we're working as one. And I told her, if you have anything else going on with your office, you need to let us know.
Mhm.
And on top of that, I want you to come to the meeting because people need to see what you're doing, hear what you're doing, and because that's part of where the accountability comes into place. That we're not replicating effort, but I think the culture shift. We might not be, to your point, Mary, maybe we're not that big, but I do believe that I think we are making a dent. People are taking notice and saying, okay, this coalition is here, they're doing things, and we're trying to do things differently and hold people to account and really make it our business to know and find out. It's hard work, but it can be done.
Sometimes our clients / patrons know more about what's going on and they
tell us. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So we need to
Good point.
improve
point.
communication across the, and even to the communities that are on the outskirts of the county, because face it, it's not that far.
Good point.
We're not dealing with California. The things are, yeah.
Good point. Sorry, we're speaking very passionately. Kim was like, oh, look at.
So I wonder.
He's a pot stew. That was Listen, I'll tell you, don't mess with the redhead.
I wonder if you add one more letter to it, it becomes like the Mercer County Reentry Resource Committee and let all these places view this as a resource. I mentioned to like Anthony Borelli, you're building out legislation. Where are you getting your information from?
Yeah.
This group right here could really help you on here's the things that make the most sense to push, as opposed to your chief of staff assigning people to research things and stuff like that.
We could say reentry and resource.
Yeah, maybe
because that's a lot of what we do is resource.
Right.
You need this, guess what? So-and-so does that.
Yeah, so then it's not this one group that's sort of rocking the boat. It's, hey, this is a group that has a variety of different experts and all the different entry and exit points.
And what I don't do, you might do, or you might do, you know.
Right, and then you share best practices, you know, we highlight certain, like I said, even just a group of testimonials on success, right? How we have a separate thing that we build out for employers, right? How it's for, you know, just all the different moving parts.
Because when he passes legislation, how does he know what's happening? He needs to go to the organizations on the ground to see if it's being put into effect, how it's working or not.
Right, and well, that's actually something that Terry West brought up, who's part of the Mercer County Community Outreach, or can't remember exactly what his title is, but that he would help with, like, trying to get a rally behind legislation being passed.
Mhm.
And I think that the conversation needs to be, how much resistance are you noticing for this? Like, we don't want to do a rally if it's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know, choose your battles, right? Let's say
Yeah.
that for a
And
different thing.
effective is it because a lot of times people in positions of authority decide, oh, that's what you need, without even talking to you. And then they say, well, why didn't it work? Well, I didn't talk to you, so.
Yeah, I think one of the other most interesting things, I'm sorry, I do this, I talk too much, really, but one of the most interesting things was trying to take the lens of, and I brought this up at the conference in Atlanta, was you take the lens of the person you're never gonna convince. You're gonna have people that say they broke the law, that's their fault, they made their bed, that's it, right? It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter second chance, first chance, however we like to frame that. It doesn't matter. But if you say you're shifting someone from that you're supporting through your taxes to providing them the opportunity to be a tax-paying citizen, right?
Law-abiding, tax-paying citizen.
Right? Now you're not supporting that person and getting angry about this disconnect and, you know, oh yeah, you know what, actually, we give them that second chance and they become a productive member of society. And then my taxes aren't paying for something I don't want.
It's a public safety issue. You
That
know, if
too.
you're worried about somebody mugging you because they need money for drugs, because
Right.
they don't have a job, well, guess what? If they had a job
Right.
and stable housing, less likely for
Right.
you to be in danger. So sometimes you take their lens and say, we're not just being nice, it's personal. You know, I want people to be law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, so I still get my social security.
There you go. Yeah, it has to be framed that way, because some people you'll never convince.
Yeah.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, expecting the county or the state or whomever to come looking for us is unrealistic. They're not, you know, like, who do I need to talk to today? It's because they have so many constituents. So I think that's important to remember, but all the more reason why it's on us to kind of raise our visibility and to be impactful. And I think that that's what the coalition offers, as opposed to functioning in silos. Because, you know, as a person who gets to ask for money from time, you know, that's like my day job. And you can appreciate that. It's, you know, when you go and you ask for money and you don't have the results, you know, like, you're going nowhere with that. And that's what the coalition has to offer. You know, it's like Jeanette doesn't do everything. So, you know, it's being able to help Courtney get all of the services that she needs so that she can be a whole individual, or however we want to describe that. So being impactful is important, and that will also not just draw in, you know, the county or the state, but it's also other partners, because at some point they're going to realize it's like, you're not getting it done. You know, so, you know, it just doesn't serve anyone well. So I just don't want us to lose sight of that. And I think, just to add, going back to the meeting, I think for me, as an outsider, I think that was the power of the event, you know, the larger event, because to me, the collective, the coalition, everyone was unified. Like, I could tell, I was like, okay, and you're not part of the coalition, and neither are you. Not that they weren't doing good or important work, but hadn't made the realization yet that, you know, I'm not going to be able to get this done alone. And so for me, watching all of you was like, right, the coalition gets it. We're all on the same page. That's great. And that's, again, part of part of what we're putting forth to do the work and to build community. And it's not necessarily for everyone, that's okay. But if you're in, we hold each other accountable and we raise each other up. And I think that's just really important. So it's frustrating that, you know, maybe the county's not looking for us, but not to lose sight of where we're headed. We're in it for the long game.
We want to be the cool kids, so that.
You are the cool kids. Yeah, we are.
And that's where success stories come in. And publicizing success stories and even getting the news media to, you know, I don't know how to do it, but we need coverage on the news for the general public to see that, oh, these guys are doing something. And look how they helped this person, you know.
If someone at the Trentonian who's interested in these kind of stories, I
Yeah.
think about it. And think,
There's a woman and I have her contact information.
Usually when we do something like the food truck, wasn't it Channel 6? Seems to be, TV. Yeah, nobody just used it. You know, I remember the day when I was in one, but the news, the 6 o'clock news, if we can get some news coverage.
Yeah, News 12 does a thing where they feature a nonprofit every Sunday. And
Something
that
like that.
might be the most realistic target.
you know, we have stories because we're sort of stopped along the way between all these organizations. We just had someone, so Andrea Force, at South my team, she went to the 14th meeting for one of our graduates on the IELTS speech team. She got hired by IELTS.
Okay.
And she got her ideas from class. So to tell that story of
And
how
say,
they went through all our organizations.
Workwell did this and Cass did this, and guess what? IELTS did this. Show that it's not just one entity doing it, but we're cooperating and helping people move into becoming law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. That's the goal.
Yeah, and I think the more you grow the coalition, the more you can tap into different resources, right? Where, what are the current job trends that makes the most sense for someone that has, what type of, you know, digital equity or inequity can we try to leverage to get, you know, more access to digital training. Again, jobs that are usually can be done remotely, those type of scenarios, best case scenarios, right?
Any kind of job to get them,
Right.
you know.
And then also mental health, like groups where from, you know, resources for potential employers, say, here's how you can try to manage certain situations, right? Also to the reentry candidates themselves, yeah. All those, you know, I used to talk about it when I was the Y, I can't even get them in the building. They run a background check on every single member and every staff member at midnight, every single night. And if you're flagged for violent sexual crime, you're not getting the bill. But can we get their kids in the building? You know, can we do there's some things? So, hey, here's COVID.
But your kids.
This is like, oh,
And then the more you get out, the more different entities that can help serve in one way or the other. There's so many resources that every reentry candidate needs to tap in.
It's a complicated issue and people don't realize that.
Yeah,
Just like they look at homeless people and say, oh, you need to go get a job.
Yeah.
It's complicated and
so it's like, I think it's almost the stages of it, right? It's here's how you start preparing them before they get out. Here's what they need right when they get out. Here's all the different organizations. And then here's the emotional support side of things, right? It's first logistics and technical, you know, the technical side, and then it's.
And the corrections community, especially the county jail and the prisons, they're judged on recidivism. And, you know, and if we can help them reduce that, because their focus is on public safety, keeping these people locked up, keeping them safe,
Right.
keeping their staff safe, and that's their focus. They're not really concerned about what happens when they leave unless they come back. It's like, oh, you again?
Is there a judge that targeted potentially to be a part of this? So your service commission, there's a judge that's involved, right? It's always a.
There's a judge,
Yeah,
no judge.
is there?
I was in a courtroom putting a presentation for her last week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so she's, what's her name again? Actually, US District, yeah, usually like, yeah, it's just telling it, but very long, but it's like, I don't want to butcher her name right now, but we do have, Yes, I actually was in the courtroom actually doing a presentation. Yeah, it was quite an experience. I was like, you were district court. I'm like, what am I doing in here doing a presentation?
The TV.
Yeah, a little bit different, like, oh, this is different. I think she's federal judge, yeah, but they do have a federal reentry program as well. And we've invited them to, the coalition, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
feds have
They
reentry,
do.
the state prison has reentry, the county has zero.
Zero, exactly.
Oh, they have funding.
They know how funded.
They hired people to do the work.
But that's.
To stay with our agenda, just, I think this is like really robust conversations we're having here. But I think it's still important to just, when you're building things like this, and then you guys probably hear me say this a lot, but it's very important to be methodical in how you build. So we have a lot of ideas and things we want to do, but you got to put one foot before the next. You can't just take it all in once. And then to celebrate the things we're doing well. That's important because you can lose sight of like, okay, yeah, we can. Why did we even have that coalition event? And I think that when going back to it again, I think looking at the way we want to continue to engage and bring people in, we said to ourselves that our membership meetings are going to be separate. So this is what this is, a membership meeting where it's more like our members, the core that are, committed to the work right now that we need to talk about. We can be free to talk amongst ourselves, among friends, right? And talk about the real issue, the pain points and what we want to do. Then the second meeting that we're looking to do maybe every other month is really more to kind of like socialize what we're doing with the rest of the community. That's where we invite people that can't come to our members meeting. This is where we want to show our face. This is where we're bringing guest speakers to kind of really put the point, because people leave out of that meetings thinking, I'll tell you from a JP Morgan Chase standpoint, we had 4 people from JP Morgan Chase and they went back to JP Morgan and said, oh, that's different. We want to implement that. We do this work, but it's more at the different level, but to have it localized and to see what's possible allows a corporation like Chase to say, man, we're committed to this, but this is another level for us to see. So sometimes we might lose sight of what that moment is, but it's important. A lot of people that came, right, even Terry West, when working out the door, it's like, man, this is good, like, because again, you're showing them what's possible, right? And then you draw them in a little bit into the core to see who else we can bring into the core. We're talking about maybe bringing salvation and social justice. They've shown a lot of interest. It's a way for us to begin to bring people and vet them and let them see these ideas of the importance of collaboration, right? The reason why we even had Terry West and Felicia and Murph in the room is because I just happened to, I was being nosy. I had to kind of see what they were doing. So I went to one of the clinics that they had. And I'm like, oh, wow, they had like 15 people, there and like for the whole day. And so they didn't have enough time to announce. So just kind of curious enough to kind of meet them and then invited them. Because again, we want to bring people in, but to see, and easily we probably would have missed them. We would have had a nice whatever meeting, but that piece would have been missing. And to Mary's point, when we have some of these key players in the market that are not involved, it's a huge gap, and we want to bring them in. Janet Porter wanted to be there, but she had something else going on that day. She thought to be on Zoom. But I told her after I connected her, I said, I want you to come to the next one. It's important for you to be in the room. And so making that a point to bring people in that are doing the work. I reach out to NAACP because the president of NAACP is a lawyer, is an attorney, does a lot of work in the community already around expungement to the NAACP and so also with justice and social salvation and social justice. So I knew him from in a different context. So I reached out to Leroy, Leroy. Yeah. And Leroy's on their board. I said, Leroy, get me in contact with the president on NAACP. I know him.
Justin Edwards.
Yeah, Justin Edwards. I said, I need to talk to him because I know he's doing an expungement clinic. People are kind of hearing about it. They don't even know who's doing this expungement clinic on the 11th. I happened to hear about it through another friend, another organization. I said, get me in contact with him. He's doing this work. He needs to be at the table as well. Let's not do work in silos. Now, I'm not going to catch anyone, but when people start seeing that, other people contact me and say, hey, I know you have that coalition. Someone is so has this initiative. Did you know about it? That's what we want to get to, because then people start feeding back into the coalition and say, if they're doing this work, they need to be talking to us. Not because we have some sense of like self, but it's important because the work that we're doing, we're helping to coordinate this effort to be more effective, to ultimately serve this population. If we lose sight of that, all of this stuff means nothing. Are we really serving the population we're supposed to serve? And if you make the main thing, when we get caught up in the bureaucracies, when we get caught up in somebody doesn't like this organization, that organization, it doesn't matter. It's like, are we serving the population? And then we can walk through the kinks, what we need to do to be more efficient. Like if Murph is gonna come, Murph cannot do and replace, I'll say right now, cannot replace what you do in the community. Murph is an outside organization and we welcome what they do. But I think knowing our place, where we stand within the county, people trust Walk Well. You're local to Mercer County. And that's important to know. So if Murphy's gonna come, we're gonna say, well, you're not gonna replace Walk Well. How do you work with Walk Well? Now you've been given all this money to do the work. We want you to work with it because that's gonna serve you well as well and ultimately serve this population. Accountability, straight talk is important, but you gotta build that trust to be able to have that conversation with them and bring it into the room. So I think we just have to keep on doing that work.
And a couple of things. I mean, there are plenty of people to be served. So it's not as if we need organizations to go away. That's, like, we're not pushing that on anyone. There's plenty of work to be done. But I think also just something you said reminded me, the value of the coalition in just a short time that we've been together. Like I personally have learned so much from each of you. From you, I've learned the importance of supporting the whole family. Like we were talking about that earlier, but thinking about the kids even, and that's important, and then, just the work that Mary has done in terms of like, this is what you can have when, this is the information that you need when you're released, and that work for.
No problem, yeah.
That's how we get you ready.
So
But
that's
anyway,
what-
yeah.
yeah.
But, so I think that we've already made a lot of progress and, those second meetings that we have where we invite the community in, it's the organizations doing the work. But again, the strength of the coalition is it's not just the boots on the ground. We got Pirelli to come. Not everyone could get Pirelli to come. That's important. Whether or not he calls one of us to say like, oh, we've got all this money and we want to do this policy for you, is honestly beside, well, that would be helpful and that would be great. And it's important. I don't want to just totally dismiss that. But then we also had Chase in the room because again, the coalition is not just boots on the ground. And it's important to have boots on the ground to get the work done, but also to have, to have the attention of government who's making policy. But it's also important to have the businesses. And I know that you want to show that. But actually, if you want to go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
And then
let's switch over here on the agenda to here. So the Second Chance Business Coalition, I got a chance to go to a conference at Pennsylvania University, UPenn, yeah, and it's not Penn State, not Penn State, not Penn State, UPenn. So really, it was a great conference, really talking about second chance employment opportunities. It was hosted by Chase as well as the business school. And it was really good. It was really good. They had a lot of like stakeholders from across the country there, other business schools, and other employers. And so right on the screen is right on the screen, you'll see the website. And they launched this actually because April is re-entry month, and they launched it during that time. It's new. There's 50 odd organizations, or actually corporations, not let me say organizations, corporations that have said we're raising our hands to hire and employ returning citizens. Why is this important? Because there's resources on here to help mid-size, small businesses be able to hire to train your HR, to do things like, there's a lot of research here and develop a lot of resources. And then on top of that, what you see scrolling on the screen are the companies, the large companies that have said, yes, we're hiring. Why is this important? If in our county, we know that these companies exist, but they're not really implementing this at the local level, we can hold them to task. You already have this, you make the commitment. If CVS is saying they're hiring people, well, how many people can get to work at CVS potentially? How many people can we get to work in some of these places that have already said yes to this? And we can use this as a tool to really encourage that local hiring for those particular companies. Now, when it comes to the chamber, how can this be I won't say weaponized, utilized. That's kind of a better friendly one, weaponized. Yeah, leverage. Yeah, that's how they'll find a way. Weaponized. You make the point that there are companies that are already making this decision, taking the step in the right direction, and there are resources. Because one of the pushbacks we've heard is, well, I'm not that. These are my corporations. They have the infrastructure to do this. I can't do this. I run a 20-man crew. I run a 20-man staff, a 30-man staff, 50-man staff. This is too much to me. This is a big undertaking. I don't have legal department. I don't have HR that is robust. We have resources on here that they can use to actually do the work for their companies.
So
Yeah.
in the conference, did you go into detail of what that actually means to be, does that mean to get an interview, or does it mean that they share and are transparent about their background checks? Because we work with a lot of organizations that say they're expecting to come transparency. People never actually get
Yeah,
right.
they never get help.
So let me jump in for a second. So one of the groups that JPMC works with is 110. And so 110, I'll just say 110 may be helpful. So, I mean, the likelihood of calling up Target and saying like, oh, I saw on the website that you support reentry. It's kind of like, it doesn't really trickle down that way. However, 110, they're not focused on reentry, but they have a slightly different purpose. They're trying to help organizations diversify their workforce. A friend of mine happens to work there. So I asked him, like, so what do you do if you have someone that, comes in with a history? To them, it's irrelevant. And you can actually, so you right now, if I understand correctly, could send your clients to the 110 website to kind of like get them in a system. And I think of them as kind of like, what is it called? Like if you're
Like facilitating the process?
that is what they do. That is what they do. It's not this. So I think it's both. It's knowing that there's a larger organization that has the connections with a number of these companies. And again, their mission is slightly different, but they don't screen people out because you have some sort of history. But you could refer them in there.
And they're non-profit or company.
They are a nonprofit.
So we would refer our clients and saying we would get to.
You can. It's not the same thing as walking into a Walmart, but still it's an additional path in. Yeah.
And it's spelled the word 110.
I keep saying that I'm gonna send this email to you guys. I mentioned it like 6
We'll
times.
send it in the recap.
Yeah.
110 is driving a skills first movement to
Yeah.
change the way companies hire. We're a
Yeah,
coalition
that's them.
of profit. That's them.
Yeah.
Okay, it's spelled one.
And change for sponsor.
And they're national,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
but they will work local and.
Yeah, I mean, the person I know is here in New Jersey. It's just by chance. So, and it's not, he doesn't do that part of the work, but he can make an introduction. Yeah. But yeah, you can go to their website, and I could go to their website today and just put my name in. Yeah.
And so what the Second Chance Coalition is doing is to streamline that process down to the local level. Because some of those organizations were quote unquote re-entry friendly before. So it wasn't that they were not, but the coalition, what it does and what the conference brings about is to show the companies actually some practical steps to trickle down decisions at the top level down to the local level. And part of that is creating committees, regional committees for their maybe like for their stores that are helping with hiring. So they will have maybe a few local branch or maybe a store managers involved. They will have maybe a regional, let's an example given was like CVS. We'll have like maybe in Central Jersey, like the way maybe corporate will have it divided, will have like an area manager that kind of runs through like maybe 50 stores in Central Jersey. And that particular area manager is part of that, re-entry coalition within their organization to help with hiring. And so those are the type of like ways to kind of be more efficient in helping them. And so the coalition is not just like another thing that is just put out there just to make people feel good and have names streaming on the website. And I'll share the 3-hour conference, but you're gonna have to kind of pen through. There was a lot of fireside chats that happened around these companies and the work they're doing and some of the ideas, some cutting edge ideas around helping HRs to be able to be efficient in hiring since they're part of this. So I think the resource that we see here, 110 is an organization, obviously, that actually Chase is also sponsoring because they're doing this type of similar work. But I think with the second chance, I would just encourage everybody to kind of get a chance to look more closely at it, to see some of the resources that are there. They've done a lot of work. Because a lot of this work also comes from JP Morgan Chase's Policy Center. A lot of research, a lot of years of working and trying to see and understand this, understand the business case. That's the key. Getting the business case to help the companies and then giving them the practical tools to implement. So at JP Morgan Chase, to her point, when we do our screening, unless the job that you're going for has some type of security clearance that excludes you from that, we're not going to look at that. Chase, the numbers just came out. Actually, I know we say 10% was actually 3,300 justice involved individuals were hired, which was about roughly maybe a little bit over 10% of who we hired in the United States last year alone. And so at least if Chase is going to be leading out in this effort, they have to lead by example. Can't just talk about it. Yeah, you got to walk the talk. And then we're often asking the question and saying, well, let's say someone goes to banquet school. Can someone who has a criminal record or, for that matter, can they work for Chase? Yes, they can work for Chase. It just depends in what area we're going to place you within the firm. But there's opportunities, and for those that want to do the work, some of the things that we often see too is tech. In the tech space, some of the companies here, people that have some experience in tech might get opportunities, even some of the entry-level jobs, right, that you can't do with some of the corporations and companies. There's a lot of opportunities there, but it's a coalition that just started. There's a lot of thought that was put into it. I'll share the video I'll share the video link on our recap so you can kind of see and watch a little bit, and definitely to look at the website. We can definitely get an opportunity to talk more about it and see how we can do that. And I'll say one more thing as well. As we're doing the work here, I'm also talking to JPMC to say, how do we help really kind of implement, at least help the process of hiring return receipts at the local level? And because they do have quite a bit of sway in many instances, and really, having that place, and that's the communication that I'm having with them on this as well. And that is why having them come to the coalition was important, because I had to make a case.
So do they put out something essentially to all the local branches, every client that they have, as far as a corporate client, that they say this is a re-entry task force, we're encouraging people to consider hiring re-entry candidats, and they put the word out to.
Yeah, they can. They do things like that. And usually we'll have to walk through. The gentleman that was in the room, Robert Taglia, his office is, he works locally in New Jersey for the Policy Center. And then we work also with Michelle Henry, that was also in the room, with the corporate responsibility to see how do we kind of deploy that locally. I do know that we're talking about press. Chase wants to do a story because they do have their media relations on this as well, because it's getting a lot of attention.
Right?
and they want to put eyes on it. So, this type level of corporate sponsor to say, this is the work that is being done. This coalition, kind of, I won't say it's part out of nowhere, but it's like, this is a story, it's a journey. Starting with Jeanette and the work that you were doing, and we kind of just tagged along and try to amplify that work. So Chase is interested in doing a piece on it, which would be good for us. And it will be, they run it in two ways. They'll usually do a national piece and they'll do a local piece. So they usually will have media relations here, like maybe a local, like media source here. It might be in print, right? They probably won't go to, video right away, maybe, news right away, but they'll probably do a print kind of publication or put it sometimes in our local internal communications in Chase as well. And they might even throw it on maybe some of the stuff, because that's kind of we're seeing like, okay, when I made the businesses, I was just part of a business review yesterday, telling Courtney, and I was presenting about this in front of executives in the Northeast. And what the point that we're trying to make is, I'm trying to correlate what Jamie Dimon and the policy center is already doing and say, this is a local activation of that. When you make that correlation at a corporate level, it makes sense and resonates. It's not like, oh, just some random thing we're doing on the side. It's all integrated, and we want to amplify that work. And so that is kind of where JP Morgan Chase is an ally in this work, because they're already on ground, they're kind of seeing it, and we can get more allies like that to get the word out. It's more impactful. But that's the second chance. Definitely take a look at it, and we continue to see what we can do there. But yeah.
Go ahead.
If I could just share, so, we're talking about leveraging the work that JP Morgan Chase is already doing to kind of open doors to some of these companies to hire people. I will share one other conversation that I had with 110, just in their work. And again, they're not reentry. I mean, they're just trying to get, it's skill-based employment. And even with that, the challenges that they've had over the years, because, you have a lot of upper level management, not the Jamie Dimon level, but, the hiring managers who are accustomed to just hiring people with degrees. So, that's what they bump up against. So I just want to kind of like level set. And again, I think knowing that that in itself is a challenge, all the more important for the coalition to work together. Because if you can't finish training with Jeanette because your kid doesn't have daycare, it's like everything falls apart. And again, this is why I say everyone that's going in alone, okay, let me know how that's going in like a year. But again, just kind of being, I think it is so helpful, this approach of a coalition, all that we can learn from other organizations, whether or not they're part of the coalition formally, but it's like, all right, note to self. If that's what you're dealing with, how do we, 110 does well with, a lot of companies are hiring individuals with technical skills. So Mercer County Community College will be at the table. They offer all of this programming. They're in. We just need to figure out how to, so that when Courtney goes to Jeanette, then Courtney goes to the community college for classes. And then we post on 110 so I can get a job. And my kids got daycare, but Mary hit me up with with the pre-release information. Like everything should work together. But yeah, just, I just wanted to point out just the two things. One, so you were aware of some of the challenges that 110 goes through.
Yeah.
But with that understanding, like what do we do as a coalition to kind of, just help the individuals that we're looking to serve?
And that's one thing I was thinking about when I saw the names on there. Our population, and I suspect yours also, most of them, if they have a high school diploma, will have.
But not all of these jobs require, I mean, you look at some of the companies, it's Target. There are plenty of companies. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of companies.
Try to get them into a kind of community college.
Yeah.
Or to say, get stable, come back, go to nurse.
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention, IELTS has a program where they help students who have dropped out of high school
Yeah.
get their GED or get the education that they need for their.
Yeah.
high school diploma. So that, they may also be ones to include.
We have tutoring.
Oh, you do too, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of resources, good resources for GEDs. Mercer County Friends,
Home front.
Home Front, State High School, and all have different, some are remote, some are close.
Right.
Catered to officers.
Oh.
So we sign up, every fall we sign up, at least. But
Yeah, what other things can we try to offer? So I've used the example of like you train for the aptitude test for any of the building grants. What other things can we think of that we could potentially identify collaborators to provide that? I know we've already planted the seed with Assemblyman Borelli about how we can get the, create that aptitude test available pre-release, right? But how can we make that one of these training program platforms, and can they? I find that almost every industry now is trying to create their own pool of candidates on a short and long-term basis.
Yeah.
So this is just another way of doing it. Create your own pipeline.
And then there are the soft skills, because how many times, oh, I had a job and I got in an argument and I
Yeah.
got fired, and I didn't show up for work and I got fired. Well, yeah, and yes, we have a soft skills program too, to kind of like, it's not just get the job, it's keep the job.
And you make a good point, though, that through the community college, because Capital Health is doing it, I think BMS has done it. NJM, I think, has done it. Their partnership with the community college, they are able to tweak, like, someone comes in and this is the standard program that the community college offers. But BMS has said, like, if you could just do this, then we will take your people.
here's the problem with that for teacher. They have great people at Capital Health who have said that they will interview and streamline our graduates. Not one of them has gotten hired. 2 months post. And they make a lot of promises, we'll be friendly, and they have hired people, but then it gets blocked by the third party background. And there's
Well, but-
between the two.
So then this is where I go back to the resources and the work that JPMC has already done, and where it's helpful to be able to have conversations with them. And that's something that the coalition needs to figure out. Like, how do we do that? Because I personally have gone through some of the resources that JPMC has posted online. And I said this at that last meeting, I'm like, there's a ton of stuff there. I don't know how many days it would take me to go through it, but there's plenty of information there that could help at Capital Health. Because
But it's this high level, things have to happen on a high level to break through these barriers.
Yeah.
So maybe
But-
that's just another thing we could do, is like an action item, is identify the leadership that we need to
To
amongst
talk
our networks, that
Because
we
they're,
can get into the room.
they're talking a big game, they never fire, and then
Right.
they don't.
Like,
Well, and again, because they need to know how to do it, but this is why I go back to all of the stuff that JPMC has already done, because if you're part of this coalition here, it's like, here you go, here's everything that you need to do. So your HR manager knows what they need to do. And again, learning from 110, they're like, right, so all of this is available, but you still have that hiring manager that believes everyone should have a degree. So it's bringing different organizations into the room to figure out how to navigate those conversations, because
Every.
Yeah. Right.
Hiring one person, they don't have the power to place them in the job. They can get them in the door, but then when it's ultimately up to a manager who might not have gotten the training, then they might. not.
And that is what the Second Chance Coalition
Yeah.
addresses, because what they found is like there's a breakdown.
Yeah.
So you might have someone at the top saying, yeah, this is great. The hiring manager's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not bringing them over here. Besides, none of my team, yeah. And so you want to create that goodwill. And so I think, again, it goes back to accountability. So we're having a conversation with Capital Health and say, you're making all these promises. As a coalition, we see that there's a breakdown. Can we have a conversation? And how can we help? Can we help you do what you
Help.
said?
But I will also add, here is where JPMC is also helpful, because it's always nice to get the money, but it's a large brand that is doing the work, and being able to say, so Shay's got the attention of the organization right now. For them to come and spend time talking to, to Shay and potentially some of the coalition, then that's something that you get to take with you to say, it's like, this is the work that we're doing. We have the eyes of JP Morgan Chase. It's like, so I get that it's difficult for you, but this organization here has already done it and they have a ton of resources. Right.
It works.
We
Yeah.
can help.
We can help you get there. Let's for the sake of time, I want to point us attention to the bylaws, but we're gonna comb through it, but I want to focus on some sections in the articles, and by no means this is a draft, so please don't kill me here. What you said? You need one?
Is there one?
Yeah, that's very. We can share the screen on that as well. So it's
Going back to
going back to that, yeah. So if you're looking.
So I already broke curveball at you. The first thing I said, maybe you should rename it.
No, we're not renaming it.
No, I don't care. I'm just saying, you just try to.
Check it, man. We gotta vote on it. You're messing up the branding, man.
I thought we were the justice.
Nah, no, Justice Coalition.
I still like that
I
though.
like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Justice League one.
Yeah.
And we might be. It's open to, oh yeah, this is obviously a functional name we have right now. I'm sure we could always come up with something better down the line. The name section, we have the vision mission, which is what we had from Courtney. But I want us to look at the membership really quickly. This is a suggested approach to see how we can bring members into the group and kind of have some type of criteria around that. This is just first thoughts. So it's not, again, it's not like, set in stone in any way, but it's like must be referred by an existing member, must be open to accountability about effectiveness, I guess, of reentry programming and activities, must be open and willing to collaborate with other members, must display regular attendance and MCCR, I guess, whatever we call ourselves, meetings, must be willing to join and participate in one of MCRC's interest work groups. And this is important. This is something I think I sent out in our recap email. I sent out a survey when asking people, some organizations actually already kind of filled it out. Based on the alignments that Courtney came up with, pre-release, release, and reintegration, that we needed to kind of begin to find out, back to Mary's point, each organization, what do you do well? I mean, you probably do a lot of things, but what's your go-to thing that you do well? Like we do procurement, that's our thing. We help, families and children, that's our thing. And then we kind of align them based on this particular categories of, does that fit on the pre-release? Does that fit on the release or reintegration? And I think we have definitions for those on our, I think one of our other slides, but I can definitely share that again around what fits that. And then the last part of it is like, we then have to bring in members by voting them in through our articles. I think articles number 8 is what we have there through our voting process. So just kind of having those. And then section 2 of membership has categories or what we call segments or classifications of members. We realize that not everybody in the room has an organization, but they have a heart to want to serve. So we have individual membership, right? We have core organization members. These are organizations that are directly serving the population, just their re-entry organizations. There's no ifs and buts about it. And then we have allied organizations. I would say that JP Morgan Chase will fit in that way. That's not what we do, but we are allied with support, stand. And it's important to have those categorizations because I'll give you case in point. So Justice led YMCA. Okay. And came over here. Well, we know that Diana was very in huge support of the work. And so we consider Diana actually a part of YMCA, a part of the work we're doing here. Well, boys and girls might say, I'm sure, but boys and girls might say, we don't want to do that. But Josh still wants to be part of that. So at the category of in the individual, he's still part of the coalition and can contribute to the coalition. But if we make the coalition just about the organizations only, it can get dicey when people leave organizations and they still want to be part of it. So we need to create those subcategories to kind of identify what lie in that as well. Then allied organizations, that could be government agencies as well. That could be, different groups that are maybe not directly serving the population, but they do work. They support. Yeah, they support.
I mean, the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA, their clients are not.
Not exactly.
But it's the children of those.
Yeah.
So they're.
They're that as well.
But not direct.
Yeah, so I think that those were the thoughts that I had on paper around maybe thinking through how we see ourselves, how we bring people in, how do we align them with what we're doing. But I welcome thoughts. The document I've shared with everyone, you can get in there, edit, do whatever you have to do. But if there's any thoughts around this right now, the rest of the document is very standard, what I call standard issue bylaws. It's your voting 2/3, and we can look at that as well. Officers that we were thinking about is chairperson, co-chair, secretary, and treasurer. Right now, because we're not officially a nonprofit, we don't need board members, but at some point probably we'll need that as well. And that is also prescribed in the bylaws as well around what that is. But this is, when we're joking around, this is kind of standard issue. I'm sure an AI probably could have written this. So, but I think the main point is the membership portion. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So, yeah, but that's the part that I really want us to kind of maybe focus on to think through is Jeanette and I were talking about this is like, okay, we have all these people there, but we have to have a process of bringing them in. Like, I know the group here, we all started, we're friends at this point in time. I think we're friends. I don't like Josh sometimes. We're friends. But now they're more interested. People are coming in and coming to our events like, oh yeah, I want to be part. Some people are saying, I'm part of the coalition, and I'm glad they have that feeling about the coalition, but they're not technically members. They might be associated with the coalition, which is fine, but to then kind of define what it looks like to come into the membership. The other question came up was, do we want to have a probationary period as they come in? We say wait 90 days to kind of see how they vet out before we really technically vote them into it, but they can be kind of maybe just kind of begin to see how they kind of fit into the greater picture. But this is what I have, open to thoughts and ideas, but yeah, membership. Yeah. Search ideas, questions, concerns, or complete edits. Delete it.
They have a provision in here about people missing.
Yes, we do. Yeah. It's in there. It's in there. It's in there. It's in there. Yeah, you're gonna get booted out.
It happens in other organizations. Somebody signs up and they come to one meeting and then you never hear from them
You're
again.
gonna be gone. You're gonna be gone at the
It needs to
meeting.
be a process. Now, if it's what they call an excused absence, that's different.
Well, the only thing that's worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that's worse than someone that talks as much as me at the meeting is someone that only went to one meeting and then they start talking. Like, I found out with somebody who was very surprised. And I'm like, we went over so many of these things and like, we're so far behind the conversation. You're gonna come in and start talking about it.
Like, she be quiet.
Yeah, you haven't been yet, just listen.
Be quiet.
Personal question.
Yes, ma'am.
This would not work without the two of you, actually. So is this something that you can do as part of your work, or are you doing this as a volunteer or?
I told you, listen, I've now moved it up to his co-primary job. This is beyond, like, I'm gonna say it. It is beyond what he would have to do. This is not required of JPMC.
Right, but can you make it, or is this like above and like, do you have to like add on hours or?
So can we advocate for you? Can we reach out to those people and say, I just need him fully focused on this?
Yeah, I have access to his boss. I've actually mentioned it, yes. Yeah.
My primary focus.
Absorb another time.
Yeah.
Right.
I can give it to you when I see it, like, I should have helped you.
You got a lot going on, so.
But so do you. So my question is, can you carry this? Establish something this
Well,
formal.
it was Courtney's my spokesperson, and she has actually spoken to JPMC about this. And There's a running joke that this is my second job. Well, I would say this much, like part of this work, it's definitely like the level I'm involved right now, it's above and beyond like what I'm required to, but I think it's also important that what I'm trying to do is obviously model something back to JPMC. This work is actually kind of part of a derivative of my job, my job right now. So when I'm here, I'm actually getting paid to be here technically, but so it's good. So it's not like that's still part of my job. But just the amount of focus and thanks for calling that out that takes to actually put this together, to coordinate, to think through, definitely takes a lot of hours. It takes time, right? But it's work that I'm willing to do right now, and at least as we're getting this process started, to kind of establish this. Probably not what I'm going to be doing in the long haul. But yes, I think the answer to that is yes. Right now, I'll raise my hands to say let's do the work. This is important because, again, I'm looking at where we all are right now in the different capacities that you guys are running organizations. You're running departments. I'm not running the department, even I run my community, and so I might have a little bit more of a longitude and latitude around that right now, but that's kind of where we are on it. I told Courtney that there is an opportunity, maybe with the policy center, maybe I might get a national role. And if I do get a national role, then that will be like my focus.
Right.
They're not officially my focus, but it's still kind of part of my focus because, being in the community, as community development manager, this is a part of the job, but obviously at the level that I'm doing this right now, it's way more than the call of duty, but it's important because I think it's groundbreaking work and someone has to do it. That's how I look at it.
So what's the succession like?
Yeah.
Because
The way
I can see you getting that fabulous position, that,
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, it happens. I would say this, maybe the way I look at my role right now here with the coalition is maybe provisional, like in a specific role to kind of get this going, at least looking at this probably even to the end of next year to say, there's a commitment we're making to make this kind of really get grounded and kind of get operational. We're not quite there yet, right? And that's the work, and that's what that's the weight of what I see. Not to say that if I dropped off tomorrow, this wouldn't still exist, but I think the involvement of JP Morgan Chase, I want JP Morgan Chase to replicate this. And that was why I was in the business call yesterday to say, because if they replicate it, guess what comes? Money.
And so
resource. So anyway.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why the bylaws are here. It's kind of putting those pieces together, the foundation, so that, yes,
I can leave eventually.
Yes.
I think Courtney and Jeanette and Josh can take over. Mary, I'm just kidding.
The way it was set up before when Parish 4 ran, it was that there was a TCNJ AmeriCorps, which you were very familiar with that. Intern who did the secretarial work, who set up a lot of the organizational, that takes time.
Yeah.
And that's a model like finding an intern who can work alongside you. I don't know, do you have interns at JP?
Not like that. Not interns that, well, I mean, we have interns, but there's a different, it wouldn't work in this particular context. And here's what I would say. I think within the bylaws, right, the way we have it written right now, I think with administrative work and things like that, we can definitely maybe find someone who can, maybe an intern at maybe one of the colleges that we can maybe solicitate to kind of be a secretary or someone type of admin on it. But I still think that, well, the way it is right now, I think in terms of the association, because the heavy lifting right now is on the admin side, right? Coordinating and all that kind of stuff. Maybe we can find a way to outsource that, maybe to an intern. But I think for the purposes of this, we still need to have functional officers that comes from within our ranks. So admin work, I don't want to conflate that with a functional secretary that thinks through some of those things and stuff like that. Because if we can lift the admin work off the plate, that's still bulk of the work right now. And that maybe we can find creative, we could put our heads together and find a creative way to do that. But I still think it's important to have a treasurer. And the treasurer part right now, you probably don't have any budget percentage coming in.
If it's $0.
Right, $0. But I'll give you a case in point. one of the things that happened, since we're not necessarily a nonprofit and we're not processing or writing grants as a coalition, is as different organizations, potential grant givers come and connect with us, they're asking questions. So who is doing this? Who's doing that? So as a coalition, we can recommend. Okay, we do know that you have this grant money and you're looking who to give it to. The coalition here, we're responsible, we're accountable. We'll make recommendations based on what we see to those particular, and then they can run the funds through their organization directly. It's not on the coalition. A treasurer can help us in some of the decision making to think through that. So way right now, since we don't necessarily have a fully functional nonprofit that is taking on this, then if that's the case, then we have to raise money to actually pay people to do the work. So that's, I'm honest with you, that's a different level. But right, we're not there yet. So I think the way we're going to operate is more like an association that is coming together. Maybe coalition is a stronger word, of an association that come together, and you have people that are kind of doing this work at a volunteer level to help us think through, more think tanks, think through our decisions and things that we're trying to do in decisions. Who can we think help us with maybe grant writing to help maybe our organization, get grants, to help us think through potential recipients of potential money coming. Because JPMC, for instance, said to me, hey, I'm just being honest here in this room, there's money allocated within their budget. So I make the case, they come to our event, I get a call, hey, Shaq, we want to move some money over to Mercer County. What do you think? Okay, well, I'm a JPMC guy, I can make recommendations, but in that kind of situation, I can come back to the treasurer and say, hey, look, team, this is kind of what we're thinking about. This is what maybe offer was put on the table. What do you think? How do we help think through that process? So thinking through, a secretary can also be helping us in terms of our organization. And if you have an intern that can help us do the legwork, putting a document together, writing whatever, that's the, but a secretary send out the emails and stuff like that. But a secretary can help us make those type of decisions around organizational things that we need to be, who we need to be talking to. And the hard-headed lifting of admin, you can bring in someone to come do that. And then your chair and co-chairperson are important because they're going to be the one helping maybe spearhead socializing, getting out there, helping, making sure the work groups are working properly and functional and things of that nature. And that's the face and the ambassadors of the group that are out there, kissing babies and I don't know, shaking hands. But really kind of having that front person and that, I think it's important as well. But right now, I think for where we are, just my opinion, that's a good point. I think I'm going to take you up on that. I think we maybe can lean into that and find maybe an intern, maybe I know Princeton University has a department that actually focuses on community development and reentry. And I know they have students within their ranks that might maybe want to say, hey, I want to become an intern, even maybe a TCNJ or rider, for instance, to be an opportunity. So maybe that's an idea for us. Yeah.
I'm wondering, so this is the potential of turning into a 501c3 at some point, and with the idea of potentially applying for funding that would be dispersed amongst the members of the coalition. So in the short term, you can likely, if you're looking for specific grants, we could probably get a fiscal sponsor, depending on which group would make the most sense to one that would be willing to let you leverage their 501c3 status, but then also that would make sense. Maybe we can identify potential fiscal sponsors as we're building out corporate contact. We're trying to identify how we can start from the top and work our way down to make sure things are actually happening the way they say they.
And this is why the membership understanding is so critical. Because when people know there's money involved now, they're like, oh no, I want to join the coalition. But that's what you got to get people. Yeah.
So I think the reality is when you have your brand associated with something, you have all these nonprofits in the room, they're all wondering, is there sometime sooner or later where we're going to get money? And if you bring in other nonprofits where they're not really sure about what it looks like, they're going to come to a meeting or two and say, you know what, I don't think we're going to get money out of this. And then they might not come back because that's what they're being told. This is what your job is. Go find the money. And if this isn't finding the money,
but I don't know any parts of it.
Yeah, it might steer them away. So again, just that transparency side of things will be helpful in knowing that, hey, this is, you sign up and it doesn't mean you're getting a grant or the event supported from JP Morgan.
And that is why we never wanted to put JP Morgan Chase at the center of it. Like that, we were just an ally on the side, and we want to get other potential allies like JP Morgan Chase on that as well. That we're just here to support the core and the group, what the work is doing. Now, I understand it's by virtue of the size of JP Morgan Chase, people are naturally gonna look at us, well,
It might be open to just get Lita into more of these. Was she invited to this, the Lita Valentine or anyone from PACF?
No,
No.
good, but,
They seem.
no, because we had talked about.
Yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right.
Overwhelmed right now, right? So
From the
she,
right?
she pulled me aside and asked me about this group and was saying like what's going on and I said, there's constant movement, there's always things that are happening.
Yes, please.
She definitely wants, so just, throwing her out to these, putting her,
Be an ally.
Jamie potentially, or
Yeah.
whoever makes sense, within the organization. But then there is, again, this idea of potential funding down the road, but you're not now the.
I'm not the only person in the fund there in the room, yeah.
And that if they're trying to create an initiative where they want to release something, they should be leveraging your expertise, all the work you've done already, right? Maybe you can match something, or there's a way to split the financial burden at the resource side. You should help them streamline what they're
You
doing.
know what they're doing. And back to the same point too, I can think about allies in the room. I think that's very critical because then whether we're looking at JP Morgan Chase, the foundation, Princeton University, they have an endowment, they're looking to do things like this. Ryder also have an endowment, TCNJ does have as well, but having some of those
For reentry?
For reentry, yeah.
I know.
And if it's not for, even if it's not for reentry, they still have, but having them in the room and within the ranks of the allies, it's important as well because then it's creating that diversity. Then people are not just looking to one organization within, like, oh, you're gonna be a potential funder, right? And it's like, but they kind of share it out in that way. So that's a good point, Josh. It's a good point. So if we can invite her as well, all right. But where are we now in time?
You're just
2 more minutes.
But I do want to just, and Josh, I think you can back me up here. So from a development perspective, if any of the members of the coalition are applying for funding and need the letters of recommendation or, whatever, I think we all step up and support and,
Which already people do.
yeah. Well, I think, the letters of support, but I think also I would encourage you to talk about being part of the coalition, even though the coalition is new, but just to strengthen, it's like, I do this, but I'm able to refer to Mary for this and to Josh for this, because we understand that in order to help Courtney get back on her feet, it's all of the pieces.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, whether or not there's a formal 501c3, it's still leveraging what we're learning about the coalition to get the funding.
Yeah.
Independent, and yeah, the person that shows up once does not get to do. No.
I do think the messaging of collaboration just does bring in funding,
It does.
especially from government. Yeah.
They want to see that you're not trying to do it all by yourself.
Right.
You've got partners, but no.
And that was the feedback we got from JPMC when they first came. They were like, they need to be collaborative because they won't get anything this way without. And so that was kind of what we said. We need to come together. We need to come together to show a united front, but not a fake one, but real. Okay. So.
Are we voting on anything today?
Well. We're not
Right. I was gonna say, like,
we don't have to vote on anything, but just a few items really quickly, but we can think through potentially bringing in, there are some organizations, I know that Salvation and Social Justice are up for, potential.
NAACP, I heard from them this morning.
NAACP.
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'll invite them to the 7.
Okay, sure. So I think in terms of the organizations that we potentially want to kind of bring in to potentially vote on, probably Salvation and Social Justice probably high on that list because they are they've kind of shown a lot of interest. And so we can maybe hold another voting call, maybe on Zoom before, even maybe post, I know you're about to travel. So we could think through that with connecting, maybe put something together to kind of vote on them being brought into the group. And then I think for the 7th of June, the meeting will be again similar. We don't have any keynote speaker like Varela or anything like that. But we have a lot of people coming again. People have already RSVP'd and want to be there. It's going to be at what's it called again? 1 acre?
Waiting to.
Ten
to-
acres.
I'm sorry.
Waiting
Like 1
to-
acre?
It hasn't been completely approved yet, so I tried to get that answer for
Alright.
today and I'm sorry I didn't have
But
it.
that's fine. We can always find a way to, pivot, but the meeting will happen on the 7th. And our main focus would be to talk a little bit about expungement. We've asked Valicia to come speak about expungement process because there's some new laws that have changed. And I know people have been asking questions. We want to know about more expungement in the state. And so she's going to come as a expungement lawyer to kind of speak to us about that. And then we're going to have breakout sessions around our alignments, pre-release, release, and reintegration. We're going to split the room into work groups. And the work groups is going to give us opportunity for the network. We'll have some questions, and that's going to allow us to identify what's kind of happening in some of these groups and clusters. And then we'll bring the group back together to kind of have some discussions around what you discovered around the different organizations. Because what we're trying to get people to start thinking about is around these verticals. Like, okay, this is something that you are part of, pre-release, salvation of justice. You're starting to have a conversation with Mary. Like, oh, I didn't know you were doing that. Let's get you on our, the work that Mary's doing to help us with that task force. Maybe there's something else going on. So that's going to be the main focus for the 7th. And we should have some dates for our post events. So thank you so much.
So it's the 7th at 10 a.m.?
10 a.m., yes.
Okay, we just haven't confirmed the location.
Yes.
The only other thing I'm wondering is, do you want me to invite Al or anyone from the chamber, even the planning committee, to that meeting to, instead of going and saying, here's what
Maybe
we're,
let them see it.
just let them hear,
Um,
they fly on the wall, or do you want them to wait?
maybe the next one,
Okay.
maybe the next one.
Go to the breakout.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, we
Productive.
can let them be here. We can let them.
Okay.
And I'm in the building next to him. I just saw that.
But anybody else outside of the chamber you want to invite, this is a great meeting to invite them to. They want to come see, want to show them what we're doing, the scale of it. This is a great meeting to invite them to. We put our best foot forward at that meeting. So thank you all so much. That is anybody online that I don't know if Rand's still on there. I know we've been talking. I know Patrice. Thank you so much.
Enjoy. No, I think
We're good. Okay.
Enjoy, guys. Yes, Rand, I'm still here.
all right. Thanks, Rand.
Thanks, Rand.
Thanks. Bye for it. Talk to you guys soon.
We're going
All right.
we're gonna
Bye-bye.
connect soon. Come on.
This.
I will send out the notes.
This is
Yeah,
brand new.
thank you so much.
Yeah, this is.
Yes.